Time community, and welcome to the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Tim.
And together, we're going to walk through Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time book series. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I am also doing well. I am excited about getting through this very, very long episode.
Yes, this is going to be a big one.
So before we get started, we just want to remind you that this is a reread. We assume that you have read the entire series, so there will be spoilers. You have been warned. All right, Tim, what are we going to be doing in today's episode?
Today we'll be discussing chapters 4 and 5 of The Great Hunt, where Moiraine has to appear before the Amyrlin's seat to answer for her actions, and it's full steam ahead with Aes Sedai scheming. Also, White Cloaks suck.
Yes, they do.
Chapter 4 is called Summoned, and the icon is the horn.
Here's a quick summary to act as a reminder for those of you who are not reading along with us. We open Chapter 4 from Moiraine's perspective, as she tries to figure out why the Amyrlin has come to Fal Dara. There's a knock on her door, and two Aes Sedai, Anaya of the Blue and Liandrin of the Red Aja, are there to escort her to the Amyrlin. Moiraine is happy to see Anaya, whom she considers a friend. Liandrin is not a friend. The three Aes Sedai walk and talk while the two fill Moiraine in on news of the world, specifically about a new crop of false dragons popping up. They run into the Lady Amalisa, Lord Egomar's sister, who Moiraine knows very well. While they are speaking to her, Moiraine spies Egwene sneaking Rand through the women's apartments, and she can't help but smile at the girl's initiative. Liandrin shows special attention to Lady Amalisa, and Moiraine is suspicious of her out-of-character friendliness. They continue their walk and talk, and we hear about the news from Andor, the hunt for the horn, rumors of odd behavior from both the Sea Folk and the Ale, and rumors of fighting on Almouth Plain and Tommen Head. Once at the Amyrlin's suite, Moiraine finds 5 Aes Sedai in the antechamber. The two most notable present are Varen Mathwin of the Brown and Alana Mosvani of the Green. Moiraine does not receive a warm reception. The inner door opens, and Leanne, the Keeper of the Chronicles, appears to usher Moiraine in to see the Amyrlin seat. Inside, Moiraine is dismayed to find that the Horn of Valere is already there. She was hoping to inform the Amyrlin of that herself. Moiraine greets her formally, and throughout their conversation, she is very aware of the Keeper's presence and chooses her words carefully. The Amyrlin tells Moiraine that Elaida has followed Elaine from Caemlyn to Tar Valon. Elaine has the potential to be the most powerful Aes Sedai in 1,000 years, and the Red Sisters are puffed up with superiority at one of their own finding her. Moiraine tells her that she has 2 as strong or stronger than Elaine with her in Fal Dara, and neither are likely to choose Red. The Amyrlin tells Moiraine that Elaida spoke to the Hall of the Tower to say that Moiraine was meddling with a young man who is Ta'veren and dangerous. She told the Hall of her foretelling that he was more dangerous than any man since Arthur Hawkwing, and that Moiraine had spirited him away before she could get to him. Moiraine responds that she has 3 young men with her, but none of them dream of being a king. The Amyrlin tells Moiraine that it was put forward in the hall that she should be sent into retreat at the hands of the Reds as punishment. They discuss tower politics for a bit and how shockingly things have changed in recent years. Moiraine hints that she has more big news, and much to Leanne's surprise, the Amyrlin dismisses the Keeper to talk to Moiraine alone. Once it is just the two of them, the Amyrlin wards the room against eavesdropping, and the 2 old friends embrace warmly. They briefly reminisce about their days together as novices in the tower, but the moment does not last. The Amyrlin warns Moiraine that if anyone ever discovers their plan, they would both be stilled, and those others would be right to do it.
One of the cool things about this chapter is that it's our first full Moiraine point of view.
Yay.
She's so secretive, and we finally get inside her head.
More importantly, it's finally a POV of someone who wasn't raised in Emond's Field.
Yeah.
If the Eye of the World introduced us to Jordan's universe, the Great Hunt starts to open it up. We'll see that there's so much going on that our ragtag bunch of farm folk have no idea about. The world's a lot bigger than we realize.
A lot of the first section here is general exposition, letting us know a little bit more about Aes Sedai and some details about Moraine. We hear about what she looks like, that she grew up in the royal palace of Curian, and that she's learned a rudimentary way of channeling on her own before going to the tower, using the blue stone that hangs from her forehead, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that we clearly see while Moraine is keeping her Aes Sedai calm exterior, she's not so calm on the inside. We rarely see her vulnerable side, and it's a nice change from book 1.
Yeah, totally.
Leandrin is outmatched by Moraine, and it's almost comical. Like, she's taller, she's younger, and I think the text implies that she's even prettier than Moraine. But Moraine comes out of the scene as the clear winner. From the moment Moraine opens the door, she's one step ahead of everything Leandrin does or says.
We get to meet Anaya, who I really like. The book says that almost everyone felt comforted, safe, and special when Anaya smiled at them. She smiles at servants and ruffles the hair of some of the kids they pass in the hallways. Unlike many Aes Sedai, she's not hung up on her position or super full of herself. Moraine says that she means what she says and says what she means, and that she had a way of seeing to the heart of things and accepting what she saw. She's just a really cool person to be around.
Yeah. 3 false dragons are mentioned, and we get this quote. 3? Moraine mused softly. For an instant her eyes gleamed, but she masked it quickly. 3 in the last 2 years, and now 3 more at once. What I love about this is that even though this is a Moraine point of view, Jordan still manages not to reveal what she's actually thinking. We find out later that until Ren declares himself as the Dragon Reborn, the pattern is going to keep spitting out false dragons at an increasingly faster rate. The other 2 Aes Sedai here don't know that she has the real dragon in her back pocket.
Yeah.
For some reason, I always forget that Moraine and Lady Amelisa were friends. It's not too relevant to the story, but it's another glimpse of the softer side of Moraine.
Well, not only are they friends, but when Amelisa curtsies to the Aes Sedai, Moraine says to her, "Rise, sister."
Yeah.
That's a really significant word for an Aes Sedai. Like, they call each other that, but no one else. Amelisa even tells her that Moraine honors her too greatly. And I have to agree. It's going a bit far, even for a close friend, you know?
Yeah.
Using her first name with no honorific would have been enough to convey familiarity, but calling her sister was too much. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a little out of character, I think.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I get what Jordan's trying to do. He was trying to, like, show that Moraine has this connection with people that's authentic, whereas Leandrin doesn't.
Right, but I still think it was going a bit far.
I agree. Moraine is not that touchy-feely ever, really, in the rest of the book.
Well, I mean, more so, like, Moraine has a sense of propriety. She understands how important titles are.
True.
And, I mean, Amelisa has never been to the tower. Amelisa can't channel at all. Like, Moraine can still be friendly and familiar with her and casual with her without giving her without calling her sister like she would like another Aes Sedai, you know?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
that's just, it's kind of inappropriate. And that's not something that Moraine ever is.
I agree. You're right.
Moraine sees Egwene sneaking with a Rand and thinks to herself, if the girl shows as much initiative in Tarvalon, she will sit in the Emerald seat one day, if she can learn to control that initiative. Hint, hint. Foreshadowing with 2x4 again.
Right.
That's the second time Moraine links Egwene with the potential to be Amerlin's seat. The first was the end of chapter 12 in The Eye of the World. So, I mean, even during my first read, like at this point, I was thinking, okay, he spelled it out pretty clearly that she's going to be Amerlin's seat one day. Cool. All right, I got it.
I was on board.
But I don't know. I mean, sometimes I feel like Jordan is really heavy-handed with the foreshadowing, you know?
Yeah, sometimes. Do you think this was too much?
A little bit.
Okay. I don't know. I don't mind it. Because I was too busy when I was reading through it, I was too busy focusing on Moraine and Rand's drama and all this other stuff. I wasn't really thinking about Egwene really, at
Okay.
least at this point. When Moraine resumes walking with Leandrin and Anaya, is basically set up for what's going to come for the next several books. We hear that all is not right in Camelin, that the Great Hunt has been called an Ilion. The sea folk are frantically searching every port for their Cor Mor, but they won't say anything about it. The Ale are stirring and no one knows why, and rumors of fighting in Toman head. We will see all of these come to fruition in very big ways.
Yeah. Anaya says, "What I would not give for even one sister from among the Ale. Just one. We know too little of them." And Moraine teases her, saying, "Sometimes I think you belong to the brown Aja, Anaya." When we see Varen, we read that the brown sisters concern themselves with little besides seeking knowledge. Moraine sometimes wondered if they were really aware of what was going on in the world, or even immediately around them. Moraine is so dismissive of the Browns, but like Varen at least uses the Brown stereotype to her advantage constantly.
Yeah. Yep.
Don't overlook the power of being underestimated. It's amazing how much access Varen is granted because no one pays attention to her or sees her as threatening.
Yep.
You know, like they just assume that she's a typical Brown lost in a fog, and they're dead wrong about it pretty much all the time. And I wonder how many other Browns do the same thing and, hide their scheming by pretending to be too consumed by their studies, like too busy to notice the world around them. I think it's a lot of them.
I would
Not
agree.
all of them. I'm sure some of them are kind of lost in a fog or the stereotype wouldn't exist. But I'm pretty sure most of them just play into the stereotype to cover up all of the crazy shit they're up to.
It's a smart thing to do.
And Browns are definitely smart.
They definitely are.
I don't know. I just want to represent Brown pride.
And speaking of Viren! Yay! Yay!
I love her so much.
So the rest of the Aes Sedai mentioned in the Emerald Suite are of no real importance, except for Alana,
Right.
who we'll talk about at length in a later book.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I wonder why these specific Aes Sedai were chosen. Because they're only a fraction of the total that traveled to Faldara.
Yeah.
And it's strange that there are 2 Browns, but no Greys.
Yeah, huh.
Once Anaya and Leandrin join them, all of the Ajas have a representative except the Grey. So I don't know if that was just coincidence, but it's kind of weird.
It is a little weird. Maybe the Grey just had better things to do that day?
Maybe. Well, and when Moraine comes back after she's done talking with Swan, different Aes Sedai are there. I mean, not all of them have changed out, but some of them have. So it's weird. Like, I wonder why those are there when Moraine is brought in.
I don't know. It
Probably doesn't matter.
It probably doesn't matter, but it would be interesting to know.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to just put this out there. Does anyone else think of Gina Torres when Liane walks in? Anyone? I know I do. Are you listening, casting team?
That would be so cool.
Right? Yeah.
I could totally see that. And after all of this build-up, we finally meet Swan Sanchi, the Emerald Seat.
Bum, bum, bum.
Here's how the book describes her. She was only of medium height and handsome rather than beautiful, but her face held a strength that had been there before her elevation, the strength of a girl who had survived the streets of the Mall, Tyr's Port District, and her clear blue gaze had made kings and queens, and even the captain commander of the Children of the Light drop their eyes. Booyah.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
Swan says that Elida followed Elaine to the tower, and Moraine says, "I'm surprised, Mother. This is no time for Margase to be without Aes Sedai counsel." That's a huge freaking understatement. Oh my goodness.
Yes, totally is.
If Elida hadn't been away, Margase may have been spared from her experience with Robin. And that whole mess may have taken place somewhere else. And, I mean, we have no way of knowing that for sure, but probably,
I agree.
And, of course, Elida wouldn't have had the opportunity to start the coup because she would have been in Camelin. And we could have avoided that as well.
It sounds like what you're saying is that
Elida's terrible.
she makes decisions And they're always the wrong ones.
Yeah. I really, really hate Elida.
Yeah.
As is right. We're supposed to hate Elida. She's written that way. But, oh man, I just hate her so much. She just makes everything a gigantic mess.
Yeah. Swan says that Elaine has the potential to be the most powerful Aes Sedai in 1,000 years. And Moraine says that Egwene is just as powerful.
Right.
Then she makes the comment that Nynaeve will shine like a bonfire beside the candles of Elaine and Egwene once she learns to control the power that she wields without knowing. Compliments from Moraine are few and far between. It's kind of cool to see her describe Nynaeve this way to the Amyrlin seat.
Yeah, definitely. Nynaeve is really strong.
Yeah, she totally is.
Moraine is sure that the girls won't choose to be part of the Red Aja because they like men, and Red supposedly hate men. But that can't really be true for everyone, can it? I mean, many of them are certainly distrustful of men, and maybe they hate male channelers. But it seems a bit of a stretch that all Red sisters hate men. Is this another example of the other Ajas being dismissive and stereotypical like they are of the Browns? Or did Jordan really mean that all Red Aes Sedai hate men? That just doesn't seem realistic.
Yeah, that doesn't seem realistic to me either. I'm gonna side on this is just the stereotypes being played out.
I'm trying to think if there's any example of a Red sister who isn't like openly hostile towards men and hates men. I mean, unfortunately, most of the Red sisters we get POVs from are dark friends.
Right.
So there's that.
That doesn't help at all. Yeah. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of the Red sisters hate men. It just means that the whole point of the Red Aj is that they've allied themselves with this mission to prevent male channelers from causing another breaking of the world. So the thing that you are against usually becomes the thing you hate, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they hate men because they're men. They're just trying to rid the world of male channelers. So I don't think every Red sister hates men. I do think they're dismissive of men because that's
for sure.
I mean, it's because of the men that the world was broken, so that sentiment definitely comes through their Aj very much.
And maybe that's just misconstrued.
I think so.
From the outside.
I believe that's what it is, and
That makes sense.
And if you're the outside looking into that Aj, that's where your stereotype comes from.
Right. Right.
Because stereotypes are at least a little bit true, otherwise they wouldn't be stereotypes. But they're not always 100% the box that people should be fit in.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe that's what Jordan was going for here.
Maybe. Also, I mean, it is possible, since the whole theme of these books is balance between men and women, it's possible that he did purposely write them in this ridiculous way that they're all men hating, because he's trying to show, like, the other side of, like, you know, like, he's trying to show militant feminism doesn't work any more than the patriarchy.
Right. That's possible.
You know, like putting both
Extremes
equally as problematic. Because they are, you know, like, the point of feminism isn't to hate men. Like, that's not right. That's not what feminism is.
Right.
And oftentimes people on the outside are looking at feminists and saying, oh, they're just all man haters. Well, no, that's not at all true. And those who do hate men just out of hand are just as problematic as men who try to suppress women. Like, it doesn't work. It's a bad idea. Stop doing it.
Yeah.
So maybe he was purposely writing the Reds this way to make a point.
That sounds completely reasonable to me.
Yeah. Okay.
I really hate how petty the Tower of Politics can get sometimes. But I guess I just feel that way about real politics as well. The Greens siding with the Reds, calling for Moraine to be brought into line, and recommending that the Red sisters are given charge of her discipline. It just seems a bit juvenile.
Yeah.
But I could see the equivalent sort of thing happening in today's real world.
Yeah. There are some significant changes in the power dynamic of the tower. Swan says that the Red sitters tried to appear surprised, but they looked like fisherbirds who knew the catch was unguarded. The Greens have historically sided with Blue against Red in the tower politics, so the implication that the Reds and the Greens plotted together ahead of time is a shakeup.
Yep.
She goes on to say there is yet another proposal, one that still smells like wiggled fish on the jetty because it's Swan and she has to put in a fishing metaphor. Since Leanne is of the Blue Aja and I came from the Blue, it was put forward that sending 2 sisters of the Blue with me on this journey would give the Blue 4 representatives.
Oy.
There was even some talk, open talk, that I should not leave the White Tower at all. So the reason that this is so significant is because the Amerlin is supposed to represent all Ajas equally, no matter what Aja she came from. Both the Amerlin and the Keeper are supposed to cast off whatever loyalties they had before they were raised. And the Aes Sedai are pledged to obey her absolutely.
Right.
So to suggest that she is Blue is kind of treasonous, but to try to dictate her movements is akin to blasphemy.
Yep.
Like, this alliance between the Greens and Whites and Reds does not bode well for the Blues.
Not at all.
And it's messed up.
And I think Swan knows it too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Swan's power is in jeopardy because the influence of the tower's power throughout the world is starting to wane.
Mm-hmm.
Things are starting to get hectic, and the Aes Sedai can tell that the Dark One is stirring. It takes a long time before the split happens, but right here, this is where it starts. This is the opening salvo.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you don't know all of this stuff on your first read, but once you've been through it and you come back and you understand what the tower politics are and how the different Ajas relate to each other and the history of the relationship between the Ajas, this is a lot. Like, this is really big. And, Jordan writes that Moraine is shocked, like completely bowled over to hear that this is going on because it bucks so many centuries of history.
In tradition.
Yeah. Like, it's big.
I really like the twist Jordan throws in here, implying that Moraine is about to receive a harsh word from the Amerlin seat in private, only to find out that the two are really good friends, more than friends, who hug as soon as they're alone together.
Definitely more than friends.
Yeah.
Quote, I don't know that any of the others have your old trick, the Amerlin seat said, lightly touching the blue stone on Moraine's forehead with one finger. But most of us have some small tricks remembered from childhood. In any event, no one can hear what we say now. All right. This is a really intimate thing to do.
It really is.
Take your finger, put it on your forehead, like kind of between your eyebrows, and like see how close that hand is to your eyes. That is a very intimate gesture.
Yep.
Yeah, they're definitely more than friends. And of course, if you've read New Spring, you know that Swan and Moraine were lovers.
Yes,
you
they
know?
were.
And we can talk about this more when we get to the concept of pillow friends. But in the meantime, just know that they are very close before they had to go their separate ways.
So now that they're in private, we can finally get down to what Moraine has been plotting and planning.
In theory.
In theory, yeah. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 4. Before we get to Chapter 5, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Today's episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru is brought to you by Swan Sanchi's Fishing Metaphors for All Occasions. A flapping tongue can put you in the net instead of the fish. Trust is as slippery as a basket of eels sometimes. Once you decide to get a fish, there's no use waiting till it rots. When there are fish heads and blood in the water, you don't need to see the silver pike to know they are there. Swan Sanchi's Fishing Metaphors for All Occasions.
I don't understand fishing metaphors!
Fish guts.
Chapter 5 of The Great Hunt is called The Shadow in Shinar, and the icon is the sunburst.
Which is a weird icon for this chapter.
It really is. Like, it seems slightly out of place.
It does. It should have been the Flame of Tarvalon.
Yeah, because so much of this is...
Yeah, I mean, this is the Amerlin's chapter. Like, come on.
Right? Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway. Moraine takes Swan's warning about stilling seriously, but she tells Swan that they still have to do what must be done despite the risk. Swan agrees that the prophecies must be fulfilled, but doing so is treasonous to everything else they were taught. She talks about the only 2 Amerlins in history that have been stilled and stripped to the stole, and she says that she has no desire to be the 3rd. Moraine worries that the strength has gone out of her friend and tries to snap her out of her funk. It works, and Swan rounds on her and blames Moraine for all of the trouble she's having in the tower. She reminds Moraine that they had a plan and that Moraine left her alone in the tower with hardly a word since. And now, after 20 years, it looks like Moraine is tossing their plans in the Dark One's face. Now that Swan has her fire back, Moraine tries to placate her, saying that the one thing they forgot in their planning was Tavaran pulling and shaping the pattern, and Rand is way stronger than Arthur Hawkwing ever was. Swan changes the subject to the Horn of Valere. She says that Egelmar gave it to her the second she arrived, knowing that he could not resist the temptation to blow it. They talk about how close the last battle could be now that the horn has been found and false dragons are popping up like weeds. She worries about what would happen if they accidentally gentle the dragon before he can fight in the last battle, and mentions Loghain and Mazrim Taim. Moraine reassures her that neither of them were the one. Moraine pulls out the broken seal that was recovered from the Eye of the World. Swan tells her that she saw the boy in the courtyard during the welcome ceremony because of her talent at seeing Tavaran. He blazed like the sun and scared her down to her toes. She verifies that Rand is the one they've been looking for over the last 20 years, and Moraine confirms that he is the Dragon Reborn. Moraine explains that he's from the 2 rivers and stubborn as a rock, so he needs to be handled with care. Her plan is to convince Rand to go with his friends to Ilion with the horn. The Ilioners would follow anyone who presents the horn, so Rand would declare himself dragon with an army of Ilioners already at his back. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Swan wants to sit down and hash out the details of this risky plan, but Moraine stalls her by saying that they've been closeted together for too long. Swan agrees to wait until first thing the next morning, and Moraine leaves, thinking that she has much to do before she speaks with the Amerlin next. Switching POVs to Joffrey Bornhold, we see a line of 2,000 white cloaks moving through Tarabon. Bornhold had been ordered by the Lord Captain Commander himself to meet someone in Tarabon for further orders and to silence anyone who sees him along the way. It had been difficult to keep the Legion from being seen, but Bornhold had managed it without having to kill any innocents. He is met by some White Cloak questioners, and Bornhold is not a fan of their tactics. Their leader directs him to ride into the local village. They have killed everyone, so the village is at their disposal. They argue a little, and he tells Bornhold that there are strangers on Tommen Head, dark friends who are rumored to have strange monsters and have Aes Sedai fighting for them. Bornhold gives Byre the order to get the men moving into the village and feels like stones on a board being used, but he wonders who is moving them and why. Liandrin lets herself into Lady Annalise's suite, where she finds a group of ladies giggling like girls while one of them reads aloud what Liandrin deems as an improper book. She interrupts Annalise's warm welcome by kicking everyone else out. Liandrin asks if she walks in the light, which Annalisa takes as a huge insult. Liandrin throws the book into the fire, saying that this close to the blight, even someone who thinks they walk in the light can be corrupted by the shadow. She implies that the Amerlin seat is here because of dark friends, and as a red, it is Liandrin's job to hunt them down. As Annalisa's fear and confusion grows, Liandrin implies that Egelmar is one of those men. She drops to her knees in horror, and in this moment, when she is most vulnerable, Liandrin strikes out with the power. Using a secret and forbidden trick, Liandrin plays with Annalisa's mind, making it malleable to her suggestions. She commands Emelisa to get her servants to search out the 3 boys because they are worse than dark friends and must be taken to Tarvalon in secret. Then she tells Emelisa that the Black Aja is real and they're in Faldara. She scares Emelisa with the idea that any Aes Sedai that passes her in the halls could be Black Aja and says to trust no one. Satisfied with her work, Leandrin leaves, knowing that she has a full night of work ahead of her. Before she goes, though, she feels prickling on her skin and could have sworn unseen eyes were watching her. Fane is waiting in the dungeon with anticipation. The door to the guard room opens, and Fane is surprised. This is not the person he'd been expecting, but it's fine. He grins at something beyond the dungeon stone ceiling and says that it isn't over yet. The battle's never over. Longest summary in the history of summaries.
Part of what makes the Wheel of Time so enjoyable for me is that this is a rich and full world that we're reading about. Mm-hmm. And just like real life, things get complicated as history marches on. Mm-hmm. Aes Sedai have learned the prophecies of the dragon, and there's this weird contradiction where they know that the prophecies must be fulfilled, and the dragon needs to be reborn so that he can fight the Dark One at the last battle. Mm-hmm. But they want to avoid all the destruction that is prophesied the dragon will bring, so they're fighting against their own cause?
Yeah.
All of the prophecies just point to a much larger history than we are privy to at this point.
Definitely.
And I find that fascinating. Mm-hmm. So Tetsuan was deposed for her betrayal motivated by jealousy.
Right.
Bonwyn was deposed for treating Hawkwing like a puppet, which backfired horribly.
Right.
Both had disastrous consequences. But isn't it funny that Elida does a lot of the similar things through the rest of the series once she's made Amyrlin? It's like being a bad leader. This is the character trait of the Reds or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Every time a Red is put in charge of something,
it
always
horribly
goes awry.
wrong.
Like, think about how many parties are sent out by Elida with a Red in charge, and it just falls apart.
And think of what happens when a certain someone gets put in a box by who?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Swan tells Moraine that after their stilling, Tetsuan and Bonwyn were kept in the White Tower as servants, scullery maids, who could be pointed to as cautions as to what can happen to the mightiest. No one can rally around a woman who must scrub floors and pots all day. Pity her, yes, but not rally to her. Now that is how you foreshadow, people. No 2x4s here. We just have to wait until Knife of Dreams and the Gathering Storm to see it.
Yeah. So as I'm reading the back and forth between Moraine and Swan, it strikes me how hard this must be for both of them. Like, on the one hand, Moraine is trying hard to pull her friend together when it looks like she's gone soft, because she can't afford for Swan to lose her nerve. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, Swan has to tell her friend that she's the cause of much of the trouble and turmoil in her life right now, and call her down for diverting from their plan. Being in any kind of relationship with someone in power is always very tricky, and the scene just highlights that very well.
Yeah. Swan is furious with Moraine, and part of it is for diverting from the plan. But also a big part of it is because Moraine has left her alone in this. She's barely been back to the tower and has only sent 2 messages over the last 20 years. That is a long time with no news. They started out on this dangerous mission together, but from Swan's perspective, that's not really true anymore, you know? Moraine has gone her own way, making decisions unilaterally, and leaving Swan holding the bag if anyone finds out what they've been up to. If I was Swan, I'd be pretty pissed too.
Yeah.
You know?
In the last couple episodes of Season 1, we talked about how Lord Algamar was smarter than the average person. He knew that the Battle of Tarwin's Gap was won because of a man channeling, and that had a lot of really bad implications. Here, we see that the instant the Emerald seat shows up, he hands off the Horn of Valair. He is self-aware enough to know that if he hangs onto the horn, he will not be able to resist temptation to blow it. Mm-hmm. So he does what he can before it can ever become a problem.
Yeah.
He's a pretty cool dude.
Mm-hmm. Part of the prophecy of the horn says, "Let whosoever sound me think not of glory, but only of salvation." When you think about the last battle and how that scene when the horn is finally sounded actually plays out, this is really cool.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up because I hadn't put that together until you brought it up.
Like that, it's just it's good.
It's
good.
It is really cool. Yeah. So Anne's comment about the prophecies of the dragon kind of strikes home for me. There are times in our lives when we start on a project or a mission that we believe in wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, sometimes we might start to question ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Swan is in a place right now where she's totally questioning if what she knows is true. She was there when the foretelling occurred and started this whole thing. She knows in her heart that she's on the right path, but this is one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't scenarios, and she can't help but doubt. The dragon is prophesied to destroy the world, and she is conflicted about unleashing him on the world. She has been dealing with a lot of adversity along the way. Sometimes it's hard to stay on target when there's so much that gives you a reason to doubt what you're doing is the right thing.
Yeah, definitely. We see so much of this stuff through Moraine's perspective.
Yeah.
But Swan has kind of been screwed this whole time, you know? And I don't think she gets enough credit for what the last 20 years have been like.
Yeah.
Moraine shows Swan the broken seal, and Jordan specifically tells us that the Amerlin is the watcher of the seals, and that despite the title, no Amerlin has known where any of the seals are since the Jog Wars. It's possible that this has some relevance for later. Maybe.
Just maybe. Possibly.
Just putting that out there.
Who knows?
Hint, hint.
With the reveal of the breaking of the seals, we have a bit of a countdown clock started. Even though it took several books, the thread of how many seals are broken and how many still have to be found was one thing that kept suspense moving forward. Okay, well, maybe it's more of a countdown calendar because it took so long, but you get the point.
Yeah. I love that Moraine was all like, we forgot that you can't make a plan when dealing with Tavren. And then a few pages later, she's like, so here's my plan.
I just can't help herself.
She really can't.
Sometimes I forget how much Moraine's plans were kept in the dark from us, the readers. It's one of the reasons I had a hard time trusting her during my first reread. And I get why some people still don't trust her. But the more times I reread this scene here, the more it drives home just how desperate she is to make sure the world is saved by Rand.
After they plan to meet again the next day, Moraine thinks to herself, besides, my dearest friend, I cannot tell you everything, and I cannot risk letting you know I am holding anything back. What was she holding back? Like, what secret could she not tell Swan? Because I can't think of anything.
I'm not certain. Just shooting from the hip, I don't think she's gone through either of the doors yet, so I don't think she knows anything for certain about the future.
No.
But maybe it has something to do with the fact that if Rand is the dragon, I don't know.
Yeah, like, I mean, what is there that she can't tell Swan? Because it's one thing, like, I mean, there might be a few things she hasn't mentioned yet. Like, she hasn't mentioned that, oh, by the way, the Forsaken are loose. Whoops.
Right.
You know, but, I mean, it's not like she has to keep that a secret. Like, she could totally tell Swan that. That's not something that she has to hold back. So, what is something that she can't tell Swan? Like, I can't think of anything.
I don't know.
Maybe Min had a viewing?
Maybe.
And there's something there? But, like, I can't think of what it would be. I mean, they're in this together. Like, I don't see what she could possibly know that Swan, like, it would be dangerous to tell Swan.
Well, what hasn't she told Swan yet?
As far as the events of the book?
As far as the events of the first book. Like
Just that the Forsaken are loose. I can't really think of anything else.
Has she talked about Fane yet?
No, she has not. She did say that there's a problem with Matt there's this dagger thing and Shadow Logoth, but she hasn't gone through the whole story.
Okay.
But again, I mean, I'm sure she's going to tell
Right.
Swan about it. I mean, I don't see why she wouldn't. Egelmar knows about Fane, so
Right. So why
there's
wouldn't-
no reason Swan can't know. So I mean, yeah, there are definitely things that Moraine hasn't gotten around to mentioning yet, but they're not secrets. It's just she hasn't had
Got her.
time.
Yeah, because like she hasn't had a chance to tell her the Green Man's dead. She hasn't had a chance to tell her the Eye of the World has been tapped. She hasn't had a chance to tell her the whole story at the end.
Right. But it
But
doesn't mean that
it's
she's not going to.
She's not
They're
afraid
not
to tell her.
secrets.
Yeah.
You know, like, I can't think of anything that Moraine would feel she couldn't tell Swan.
I can't either.
Okay, Twitter people, tell us your theories. We're stumped again. So tell us what you think. What secrets are Moraine? Moraine has secrets. What are they?
There we go.
Grammar. Grrr. Gets me every time. I also really love that when she gets back to the room with the other sisters, she tries to look like she's been humbled by one of Swan's infamous tongue lashings. But humility is so foreign to her, she can't get her face to make the expression.
Yeah.
So she just looks angry. Yep, that's Moraine.
Wow. So we get more white cloaks.
Boo.
And if there's anything worse than the generic run-of-the-mill white cloak, it's a white cloak questioner.
Yeah.
These guys make me feel like I need to take a shower every time I read about them. The only thing of note here is that rumors of strangers on Tommen Head are true.
Yeah. Screw the white cloaks. I don't want to
Yep.
talk about them. The book that the ladies are reading, Emily says ladies, is Dance of the Hawk and the Hummingbird. Leandrin throws it into the flames because she thinks it's inappropriate. So do you think that this is just a romance novel, or do you think it's more porny than that? Like 50 Shades of Grey, one of those bodice stripper paperbacks with Fabio on the cover? Like, what do you think? Is it actually a dirty book, or is Leandrin just stupid?
I think Leandrin is just being stupid. I don't think it's a dirty... I don't think it's necessarily something that, ladies in high positions would want other people to think that they're the kind of person who reads it. I mean, it's probably lowbrow humor.
Amelisa and like her serving women? Or
Yes.
is it like a group of are there more ladies besides Amelisa?
Oh, you're right. This is not...
I'm not really sure.
Amelisa wouldn't be kicking it with her servants in this kind of manner. Maybe her handmaidens.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant by serving women. Not like, women in the kitchen. Like the women who dress her and bathe her and do all that stuff. Her personal attendants.
Yeah, I think this is just, girls having girl time together and there's a funny book. I don't think it's... Maybe it's like a romance novel with Fabio on the front, but I don't think it's necessarily 50 Shades of Grey.
It's not super porny.
It's not super... It's maybe softcore porny, but not super porny. It's probably more comedy than anything else.
Okay. You mentioned in the previous chapter how easily Moraine outplays Leandrin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her inexperience shows here, too. She's a young Aes Sedai, and she makes a huge misstep here when she asks Amelisa if she walks in the light.
Right?
The book says, Amelisa's back stiffened and her face hardened. That is an insult, Leandrin Sedai. I am Shinarian, of a noble house and the blood of soldiers. My line has fought the shadow since before there was a Shinar, 3,000 years without fail or a day's weakness. Emelisa is so misused by Leandrin. It's really nice to see her get this moment of pride and strength.
Yeah, it really is. I just want to say that compulsion is one of the more dark and evil things that people can do to each other in Robert Jordan's world.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, even though this isn't true compulsion, which we'll see when the Forsaken show up, it's bad enough. There's just something about an assault on a person's mind that is so horrific. More than physical torture, at least in my opinion.
I agree, actually, definitely. And yeah, this is not real compulsion. This is sad, inferior compulsion, but it's still terrible.
Yeah.
Leandrin reveals that the Black Aja is real. I mean, Bielsman had already told Rand that in his dreams, but now it's confirmed. So there's that.
Yay.
And the last thing to talk about is someone letting Fane out of his cell. Here's what the book says. Quote, "The door to the outer guard room opened, spilling in a flood of light, darkly outlining a figure in the doorway. Fane stood. You, not who I expected. Surprises for everyone, eh? All right, debate time. Who let Fane out of his cell?"
You're just going to throw that grenade out there and let everyone fight over it, aren't you?
I mean, what do you think? Who was it, in your opinion?
Okay, process of elimination.
Okay.
So it could have been Leandrin.
Right.
It could have been Ingtar.
Right.
It could have been any number of black sisters who came.
Like Alvarian?
Alvarian or anyone else who came with the Amerlin on this trip. Or it could have been the Lady Amelisa under compulsion. There's a lot of different options.
I didn't even think about that. I
I'm
don't think so, though.
I'm less inclined to think it was the Lady Amelisa. Mostly because anyone who comes in contact with Fane has some kind of corruption. Like,
Right.
and she never shows any signs of that.
Right. There's also, what are their names? Changu and Naito?
The two
The
guards.
two guards. They're a possibility. And then, I mean, Ingtar lets in Trollocs and Mirajol, so it could have been a Mirajol. I guess that's the other possibility. He lets in a Gray Man too, but I don't think Fane would have actually seen the Gray Man. So I don't think it's a Gray Man.
Right.
If it's a dark creature, it would have to be either. It would probably have to be a Mirajol.
Right. And I don't think that's the case because it's like we end up with. When Fane gets out, he ends up beheading his guards and going through. We'll find out in the next chapter. He goes through some pretty big lengths to make a very scene.
Fane didn't behead the guards on duty. Whoever lets him out did, right?
Right.
And
Good point.
the reason I mentioned Changu and Naito is because he escapes with them.
True.
And then they find them hanging, remember?
Right.
In several chapters. And okay. I want to say that it's only one person because it says that a figure, like one solitary figure, opened the door. But, I mean, it could have been one person who went and got Fane and the other person was writing the dark prophecy on the wall. Because that's the other thing. We're going to see in the next chapter, or the next two chapters, that the dark prophecy was written on the wall. So it has to be someone who could have done that.
True. You know, you're right. It must have been a Murderall.
Not necessarily. I mean, if it was one of the Black Aja, they could have done it. Like Leandrin or... I guess what I'm getting at is I have no idea who let Fane out. I still, to this day, have no idea. So the possibilities are endless because there's a lot of reasons or a lot of evidence that supports more than one possibility.
Person. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you have a solid theory or if you are also clueless.
I don't have a solid theory, but if I had to go with my gut, I would say it's Leandrin. Or, yeah, I'm not going to even say.
Leandrin makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because now that I'm thinking about it, it can't be Alviren because Fane meets her in the tower when he's trying to steal back the dagger.
Right.
So it can't be her. And, is it? It's not Varen, is it?
You know,
I'm going to say it's not Varen just because I don't want it to be.
no, it's not. Varen wouldn't. I don't think Varen would do something like that
Unless she was under orders.
Unless she was under orders. So yeah. But Varen is a possibility. I'm still more inclined to say Leandrin because I don't want to think Varen did that.
I'm fine with that logic. Again, I have no idea, so I am easily swayed towards the Leandrin camp as the likely suspect. All right, guys, let us know. You're going to have to tweet at us and give us your theories. Email us your theories. Let us know what you think it is and tell us why.
And that ends chapters 4 and 5 of The Great Hunt.
Yay!
Join us next week for chapters 6 and 7, where the keep gets attacked and all hell breaks loose.
Dun, dun, dun! We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru.
We'll see you again next week. Make sure that you rate and subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you grab your podcasts. If you could leave us a positive review, it really does help us out. You can tweet us at WhatPodThru or email us at whatpodthru@gmail.com. Tell us your thoughts on anything we covered today.
That's WOTPODTHRU@gmail.com. Thanks, everybody, and we hope the wheel weaves you in our direction again soon.